everyone, and welcome to this chapter. Today, we're going to be talking about synchronicities. Also, because we know you like manifesting stuff because it works, as we said in one of our previous videos. And today, we're going to be talking about the relationship between those synchronicities and the way to manifest, and also telling you some of our experiences with it. So, the first thing that we would like to tell you about is that synchronicities are signs that those things that we want to manifest are already coming. And as we said in another previous video, we are all the time manifesting. The thing is to choose what we really want to manifest. So there are a few techniques that now that people are teaching about how to center, how to focus, how to visualize things with detail, and how to allow yourself to feel what you feel when you're visualizing all that. And that is connecting the electric and the magnetic. So that makes things happen, that activates your energy field so that it comes to you. And then there's a very key point, which is to let go of the result and let go of the way you think that that is going to come to your life, because you never know. But keep your own energy open to the signs and to receive that thing that you have felt, visualized, and that you really want. So when you're connecting, when you're being and not wanting from a place of need, but feeling it, being it, and allowing yourself to let go of all those beliefs, limiting beliefs, and you're experiencing that, things happen fast. And so synchronicities happen when you connect that way with what you want. So being aware of how things are manifesting is a really good key towards keeping your frequency, your mindset, and that energy that you're vibrating high so that it attracts things, and not being deceived by maybe your own ego saying it's never going to happen, it's not coming, you're not worth it. So keeping yourself in that vibration is what makes things appear in your life. And we have a system called the SAR, which is a part of our brain that perceives what we want or what we fear. So we need to focus on what we want so that that thing is what we perceive. Yeah. It selects a very tiny amount of reality, and that's what we perceive, only an 0.05%. So be aware of choosing wisely. So now I think that Carol's got a very good story, and also Palax. So ladies, what do you think about this subject?
Well, I love the concept of synchronicities, and I have a lot of examples, but right now I can only remember two. So I'm going to tell you one. And that is on our first boat, we had a lot of problems on our first boat. And Thomas was always wanting to sell the boat all the time. And he'd say at night, you know, we should sell the boat. We should go back to Florida and sell the boat. We had that conversation many times. And we should have bought a different boat. He'd say, we should have bought a different boat. This is not the right boat for us. Well, we were in a place called Yorktown in, I don't even know what state it is, anywhere, somewhere on the East Coast. We were at a dock there, and we're walking around the dock, and we come across this other Lagoon 450, which is the model number of our boat. And we start talking to the guy, and it's a great boat. You can just tell. And we hit it off, and you know, he showed us around and everything. And that night at happy hour, we both came back and we said, damn, that was a nice boat. And you know, it has the upgraded engines, the upgraded sail drives that we have so many problems with now. We should have bought that boat. Too bad we couldn't have bought that boat. So we lamented about that. And then of course we forget about it, right? Well, then after our first one sunk, and about 6 months later, we decided to be crazy enough to go buy another boat. Well, we went out on the market, and it turned out that this guy, Ray, had just put his boat on the market for sale. And long story short, we ended up buying that exact boat that we said like a year and a half earlier that we should have bought that boat. So, you know, the universe was listening to us the whole time we're running around on our first boat saying, we bought the wrong boat. We needed to buy another boat. And I think I've said this before, that the universe was so tired of listening to us debate, what we should have done and should we go back. He just said, I'm making this decision for you, and sunk our boat and saved us. Thank you, universe and angels. Um, and then got us back to that boat that we said we should have bought that boat. So that's a great synchronicity for me. And this boat has been like 10 times better than our first boat in terms of issues, and it's just been a little queen. All boats have things that go wrong, and we've had to fix some things, of course, but it's so much better than the first one, so we're really happy.
Nice. Yeah.
So Pollock, what was your story about?
Okay, let me say this. Whenever I talk about it, I get goosebumps. Okay. I guess it's an example of synchronicity. Um, there was a period of time when my dad was upset about something, and it was emotionally very heavy period for him. And I'm very attached to my father, to my dad. So I just couldn't see him in so much pain, So he would cry and I would cry, and it was a tough time. So one night I remember I was really pouring my heart out and crying myself to sleep. And I was praying to God, please, please, please take care of him. He's such a loving man. He's just full of, pure love. So please just love him and, take care of him and whatever. I was just trying to say that. And then, when you want to be at peace, you sometimes look for meditations online. So I remember I looked for a guided meditation where you call upon anyone, your archangels. I think I must have called Archangel Michael. Or in the guided meditation, they take you through, okay, now you imagine this and now you imagine that. They take you through a process. So little what I can remember is they told you to imagine, this person right in front of you. And I was imagining God, or I don't remember. And I imagined this person coming, and an old man basically. And then the guided meditation was saying, now pretend you're a little baby, and you're in his arms and you're hugging him and you tell him all your heart's desires. And I was crying and I was doing that, take care of my dad, and whatever my heart was saying, I was just telling him that, and hugging this baby. And I imagined myself to become a little baby, in his arms, and I was saying. And then I don't even know when I slept off. Next day in the morning, when I was going to work, I have a habit of calling my mom in the morning, saying, "Good morning, Mom, and how are you? How's Dad?" And I was doing that. And then my mom tells me, something strange happened today in the morning. I'm like, "What, Mom?" She goes, "Your dad woke me up saying there was someone here." And I'm like, "Okay, what was that?" So what did he say? So she tells me that when he woke up, he saw someone sitting opposite his bed on a settee, was sitting there. And my dad, he's saying he got up, he said, "Oh, is it time to go?" And the person, that old man, just smiled at him and was looking at him, and he just smiled at him, and he just raised his hand as if to bless him or something. And then he got up and he walked out of the room. And my dad got up and he followed him out of the room, and then he saw there's no one there. Out of the room, nothing. And he says, that was weird. He came back. He thought maybe he was dreaming or something. He came back and he woke my mother up. And my mom got up and said, what? And he just told him what had happened. So it didn't still click. What's going on? What are they talking about? Then I just asked her, okay, Mom, why don't you describe to me what did he see actually? So she says, oh my God, she described the same man that I saw the previous night, who I was crying my heart out to, who held me like a baby in his arms. That was so spooky. I mean, is it synchronicity or what? It's the same one which
You're giving
described the
me
man
chills.
with a white beard and a white flowy cloak. And I'm like, oh my God, would this really works? I mean, like, wow. And I wanted to know, like, I want to know that, show me that you're really taking care of him or something. How more blunt can this nature be, or this universe be? Talk about synchronicity, man. Even now, I get goosebumps when I talk about it.
So did your dad, did he feel more calm? Did he have was he feeling better and not quite so emotional?
To him, he was, and things started getting better, of course. See, eventually time heals everything, right? But for that incident to happen, and I didn't ask him much about it. I remember asking him probably just a little bit, and then mom says don't because he gets upset, that why did I see this? Sometimes for mom always is the what do you say, the guardian angel. No, 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 don't say anything to him or don't ask him too much or something. But she didn't know that I went through this, whatever. Then later on, I told her like, oh my God, I don't know if it makes sense, but this is what I experienced.
Things happen. Things happen.
I
Oh,
guess
I just
things
remembered
happen.
one synchronicity that was physically manifested. Things like this, no, that you're saying, because it's more like a confirmation what you just shared. It's not like thinking it and then seeing it. It's like two people seeing the same thing. It's like, wow, that's amazing. That's kind of proof that it works.
Right.
So in my case, it was I had been going out with different kinds of men for all my life until a certain point. And I was in a crisis and I went to see a friend of mine and she channels the angels. That's why it came to my mind. So she told me, Maria, you have been going out with men, like many, but you've never asked for the kind of man that you like. So it's like sit down and have a thought about what do you want in your life. So like really write it down. So I went back home and this was the 12th of February. So I went back home on the 13th and I started writing 5 pages. I wrote 5 pages of things that I wanted to happen. So it was not like
That's a big list, Maria. I don't know how you're gonna
yeah.
feel you're gonna, have that big list.
I had
That's huge.
like
That's
a
a
lot
tough
of
bill to
work
fill.
pending chores from the previous relationships. So I wrote down 5 pages. And then because it was Saint Valentine's Day on the following day, I used my tarot cards and I created like a sort of shrine or altar. I put these cards with the lovers and the Two of Cups and all those things. And I bought some red flowers and I put them there. And I felt like I already have a boyfriend. And that this is like the presents for me. And so on the following day, I went out and I took myself to a flower shop. I bought flowers for me, and then I took myself to have breakfast. Like this is what I would do.
Nice.
Like this is what I do with my boyfriend. So I went out and I did all that, and it was a beautiful day actually. Like there was a guy buying flowers in the shop. He gave me one rose, and things like that happened.
Oh,
So it was really funny, and that was February. So I had met a person like a guy that I had met before, like a week before, and we were working online together in a project, but we had never seen each other. And then a month later, so we started suddenly, like a week later after this, February 14th, we started talking, and suddenly it was like, oh, I'm thinking about you. I have these things that I want to share with you. And I was like, what? So we had a physical event, not online, but physical event on the 12th of March. So nearly a month later. And so we went there, we met, and it was like there was a connection, but not so much. But then COVID hit and the pandemic started. So we got locked down, and he had a plane ticket like a week after. We didn't know if he was going to be able to travel or not. So I offered him to stay at my place for a week until he could leave because we didn't know if things were going to be closed or not. Nobody knew anything. And then we spent the whole lockdown together for 3 months in my house, and we became a couple. And one day, because I was during those months that we were living together, I started freaking out a little bit. Like I had my 5 pages there, and suddenly I thought, I wrote this down, and I wrote this down, and I wrote this down. So one day I take the 5 pages and I say, look, I did this exercise with a friend, and this is you, like all of these pages. And he started laughing and he said, well, I did this exercise. And he got bullet points. Of course, he's a man, so he was more precise. So he got 32 bullet points that he wanted in a girl. And I matched his list and he matched my essay. So the universe had thought, well, this lady here wants this man, so let's put them together. And we stayed together for a few months more. Then we did a trip to Mexico, and then, well, the small letters were that we both were asking that, but feeling at the same time that we were not very much deserving of love. So that thing about I don't deserve to be loved came out, and we started healing that, and that separated us. But the thing is that on that moment, I really felt like I had a boyfriend and that I knew what I wanted, and it was
Oh
written down
my
in paper.
God.
It was so
Amazing.
shocking. And we laughed a lot about that thing, about the coincidences in the list. So it was really, really funny.
Amazing. Imagine the list. Both of them had a list and tally.
Yeah, that was amazing, really. So I think that that's more or less kind of the point of asking for something, like feeling that you have it, releasing any expectations, because I had never thought about him that way before the day we met, like the day we started talking, but not when I did that ritual and that thing. And then he was like, I already have a boyfriend. I just need to wait until he appears. And then he was like, okay, you really wanted this. So here it is.
Here it is.
Guys, then what
That's
about this?
wonderful.
The book that my sister and I have written is Life as We Know It. The questions we had discussed in the previous night. The next day, my sister used to write, and those were answers to the questions that we were just discussing the previous night. That's also synchronicity, isn't it?
I think so.
Strange.
I think so. It's like the universe hears you and then it answers. And if you keep that stage of I'm open for the answers, I think
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
gives them.
You ask and you shall receive.
Yeah. There's something that the Keros, which are a tribe in South America, they talk about, which are the codes, the 5 codes of manifestation, the 5 codes of life. So what they say is when you know who you are, where you are, and what you're heading towards, what you want, then you enter into the sacred timing, which is like things start to synchronize and happen like in that perfect timing. And then what happens next, or the 5th code, is manifestation. So it's things materialize. So you can materialize things. So I think those codes are very interesting because you need to know the first 3 to actually start flowing and manifesting. So who you are, what you want, and where you are. That's so important. So I love that story, and I use it.
Well, that kind of brings up what my other thing that I was thinking about was I had gotten a divorce, and I had a Halloween party to go to, and I had no idea what to make. And then I remembered that my daughter had these green fins. I made these yoga pants with green fins on them because she was Little Mermaid. I don't know if you guys know Disney Little Mermaid,
Yeah,
Ariel,
yeah.
in an ice
Yeah.
skating show. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I made her those yoga pants with fins on them. And I decided, oh, I'm going to go see if I can find those. So I went and saw them and found them. And so then I put together a whole mermaid costume and went to this Halloween party. And at that point, I knew I knew who I was because I got divorced and I was not going to do that anymore. And I was going to be my own person. I knew, I was really feeling more of myself. And then that happened. And then 9 months later, I met Thomas, and he tells me that his only dream is to own a sailboat and sail around the world. So now I'm a mermaid right there. And to solidify it, I got a mermaid tattoo on my calf.
There we go. There we go. Guys, I just remembered something. Also, another incident but I don't know if it's synchronicity, but when I got newly married, I was away from my parents. One of the dreams I had was that my dad was not well and that something was wrong with his heart and he was hospitalized, something like that. I got up in the morning and I was obviously emotional and very anxious, and I was waiting for my parents' call. I think I called them or what happened, but they wouldn't, I didn't get through for whatever reasons. 1 or 2 days later, I was very restless, because I want to know, is everything all right? Because I dreamt like that. But 1 or 2 days later, I came to know actually on that day, my dad did have an angina attack, or supposed to, I don't know. And he was in the hospital. So I was in India, he was in Dubai. So synchronicity, I
Well,
just
I
came
think
to know at
that's
that
Well,
time.
and I think that's a great example of when you are really, really close to someone. Like I'm really close to my niece in Italy, who's actually more like my little sister than a niece. Her and I, even though we're miles and miles apart, we just feel so connected at the soul. And obviously, Palak, you and your dad are the same way, that you're
I
so
did.
connected that
Yeah.
it's like you just don't feel like you're that far away from them, for me. Yeah. So
yeah,
I think that's awesome.
Synchronicity.
yeah. There's also this quantum law that they have um, discovered. That is when there are two particles that have been together and you separate them, they start vibrating the same. I mean, when you put them together, they start doing the same thing. So you separate them and then you change one of them, and the other one changes exactly the same way.
I've heard of
So,
experiment.
yeah, if that happens with particles, imagine like we are particles. So, when you are really connected to somebody and then you separate, what happens to you affects the other
The
person.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, I read a big book on quantum physics once a long time ago. I don't remember that much about it, other than the broad concepts. And that's one thing I love about you, Maria, is that you are all into the whole quantum thinking thing. I just love that. But I remember them talking about all these experiments they did, and there were several of them with these particles, and how they reacted was so interesting and just so unbelievable that they were relative to the other particle, even though they had no idea what the other particle was doing. But the energy somehow just all meshes together. It's amazing.
And that it's really a manifestation that we're all one, basically. Like if we affect somebody that it's out there, it affects me. And because we're all born in those like seven grades of, is that movie that it's seven souls, and that you're connected to other people in by seven relationships. You can get to know everyone if you connect that person to other seven people in between. So really, we're all one, actually. So
And that's the
physically, I
whole
mean,
theory of oneness that we've talked about, right?
Yeah.
The whole theory of oneness is we are all connected. All the energy in the universe, it's all connected. And what one thing happens over here, it
Affects
happens,
everyone. Yeah.
affects something over
Yeah.
here.
True.
exactly.
Interesting, guys. Very interesting
The
topic.
energy of
I
life.
love that stuff.
The energy of life.
The energy of
Yeah.
life.
The energy of
So
life, yes.
the energy of life. Tap into the energy of life. So if you have liked this video and you like our content, or you want to tell us something that you would like us to talk about, please, Palak,
Like, share, and subscribe.